So last year I stayed pretty consistent following all of the horror releases that were dropped onto Netflix, most notably the Asian horror films that they love to just randomly drop on there. I covered pretty much every one of them that they released from last year. And unfortunately, those videos got almost no attention. So this year, I've kind of been avoiding them. And I was talking to JT from JT Horror's Discussion. And he was like, have you checked out Sumala yet? And I was like, no, it's on the list. And he was like, well, you should because I liked it, blah, blah, blah. So I did, and let's talk about it. So if you're wondering why I haven't covered any of the other like Thai or Indonesian or whatnot films that they keep dropping on Netflix like I did last year, I even have a couple sequels to movies that we covered last year, it's just because, unfortunately, no one's clicking on them, and it just feels kind of like a waste of time to cover them. But I do enjoy them to varying degrees. But let's talk about Sumala. So Sumala is an Indonesian horror film that is about a woman who is told by her husband that if she does not give birth to a baby in the next year, he will remarry. And so she goes to this woman who can do black magic, and she, of course, makes a deal with the devil. And the deal is that she is going to be impregnated with twins. One of them is going to be of man, and one of them is going to be of the devil. And they are to raise both of those kids equally. And on the 10th birthday, the devil will come and collect his kid. The kid is born. It's deformed. The dad freaks out, executes the child, and we are left with the one kid who is Kamala. And she is raised by the parents. She is crippled by her injuries she sustains as a baby, just from the birth. And she, of course, eventually becomes possessed by her twin sister, Sumala, and all hell breaks loose. I really enjoyed this one. I thought that this one was a tad different than normal. So typically with Indonesian horror or Southeast Asian horror, I've noticed that there's a trend of like people from the big city returning to the small village, a lot of superstition built around it, and then they're trying to get some curse that they picked up off of them, or they go there and they get a curse on them or something. It's all about like returning to your ancestors, returning to your roots, and getting away from like the big city and dealing with the tribes and the villages and whatnot that still believe in the occult and the superstitions of old. This one is a period piece. It starts more in, not the present day, but I forget what era it is, but then we flash back to the story built around what is known to be a true story there. This movie even ends with saying it's a true story. So that shows you how superstitious the Indonesian people can be, for sure. But as far as the film goes, yeah, I thought that Sumala was a pretty freaky character. And, with American horror, a lot of the times, kids being in horror means that you're going to have a very safe film with those characters, and they're going to have a lot of plot armor surrounding them and whatnot. Man, there is some brutality towards so many children in this film, and it was pretty awesome because honestly, most of them deserved it. And typically in movies like this, those kids don't really get their proper comeuppance, but there's a lot of bullies who bully Sumala, and oh man, do they get it. And yeah, I liked this story. It's pretty basic. There's not a whole lot to it. And yeah, admittedly, I don't think the acting is super strong. But I think if you're somebody who is accustomed and used to Indonesian horror or Thai horror or whatnot, you kind of already know what to expect going in. And there's a similar vibe to them within the acting and the effects and whatnot. I actually thought this was a really good looking movie. I think that they have a really high quality production value to them as far as like the actual look of film. It's very, very clean, very crisp, very HD, looks like a proper feature film. So they are very good on that, despite I don't know what the budget is, but I can't imagine they're super, super high. That being said, after I watched this one, I went right into The Curse of the Seven Seas, which is the same person that's producing them, and he's a director as well. But it's the same production company, has a very similar vibe. It's in the same exact city. Almost feels like a same universe type of film. And I'll be reviewing that here soon enough, I'm sure. But yeah, I really liked how violent this movie was towards its characters. There's some really gnarly shit, like the baby scene when she's giving birth, and that was more gruesome than you would typically see in a film like this towards babies. As I said, kids get a pass, babies for sure get a pass. Not in this movie. And as usual, if you're not familiar with Indonesian horror, then you might be surprised by how much CGI there is in their kills. It is an unfortunate aspect of most Asian horror like this. But it didn't bother me that much, even, mostly because I'm just used to it. Now, would I prefer it to not be like this and for it to be practical? I think what they want to show on screen would be very hard to pull off practically. They like to linger on shots. They like to use parts of the body in close-ups that you really can't use prosthetics for. There's also a good amount of like aftermath gore. There's a way that they find a bunch of the kids sprawled out around themselves that I thought was really gnarly. There's a guy who gets hanged from his body and something is off on his body, and it looks really, really good. So the gore effects in the aftermath is all practical and pretty visceral. So really good on them for that. The film is pretty mean-spirited. I mean, the way that the dad treats the mom and his kid, the way that the kids treat, Kamala, and it gets pretty mean-spirited. Everybody around her gives her this terrible life, and you're kind of honestly at almost throughout the whole film, and this might be a downside for some people, but it wasn't for me. It's probably one of the reasons I like this, is I was honestly like on the villain's side for the most part of the film. Like pretty much everybody she kills in this film, I was on board with. I was like, yeah, good. I'm glad they're dead. I'm glad they're getting what's coming to them. So I think that if you're not into sympathizing with or rooting for the killer, this might not be for you. If you don't like CGI gore, if you're not a big fan of Asian horror, I do think this one stands a little bit above the typical Netflix fare that they drop on here, but it's similar-ish. But I dug it. I dug it. I think that it's got a really cool villain. Yeah, it's got the pretty tropey at this point, crackling limbs when they move their body and the head tilts and like, you get all the same shit in these types of movies, but I don't know. I really just I liked how things played out in this. And as always, I know I keep repeating myself here on these things, but the movie is too long. They're always, for the most part, too long. The Curse of the Seven Seas, thank God, is finally an hour and a half like it should be. Films like this do not need to be the length that they are. I think this one was like an hour and 53, almost 2 hours long. These stories never, ever need 2 full hours, but they are almost always 2 hours, if not longer. Foreign horror, especially Asian horror, especially Southeast Asian horror, are really long. They are way too long for what they are. I don't have a problem with long films. There's plenty of horror films that warrant the long runtime. These just aren't them. And I really wish that they would cut down on their runtime, because it would be much easier to commit to these when they drop on here. When I see they're 2 hours, that gives me hesitation, right? And every time I go to press play and then I look at the runtime and it's like 2:15, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm going to commit to that, because they can be pretty consistently generic for what they are. It doesn't really make me want to press play when they're much longer than they should be. So if they could cut these things down to like an hour and 20, hour and 30, I don't think it would hurt the film. In fact, I think it would help the film's pacing. And it would make people more interested in clicking on it. So nobody's listening to me on that. I highly doubt any filmmakers from Indonesia or Thailand or anywhere are taking note of what I'm saying here. But just saying, putting it out in the universe. If you guys could make these things just 20 minutes shorter at least, I swear more people would click on them, because there wouldn't be just such a time commitment to something they would typically not click on anyway, right? Like, a lot of American viewers don't like to watch foreign horror unless it has like really, really strong word of mouth. And these movies that they kind of just drop on Netflix with zero promotion, nothing backing them, very few people are going to click on them. You're only going to get people like me and JT Horrors discuss horror. I don't know why I keep saying horror discussion. To watch and review these things. And when we do, we just kind of hurt our channel because no one clicks on them. It kills our algorithm and our, whatever. You guys don't need to know that stuff. It's just, anyway. All right, that's that. I think you should check it out. I think it's a cool flick. And Sumala is a scary villain for sure. So I like the look of her. I was rooting for her, though, I will admit. Go Sumala. That's what I say. Kill them all. Kill everyone who freaking, abused you, bullied you, did what they did. She didn't even ask to be born. This mom went to some witch and made a deal with the devil. And this kid didn't have anything to do with that. She just wanted to be born and treated right, and her sister came. There's also some really cool shots because the kid is crippled. So, like, when Sumala takes her over, they can show a scene of, like, Sumala behind her kind of controlling her, and her, like, arm goes from being crippled to, like, not crippled. And then when she, like, steps back, it, like, goes crippled again for a second. That stuff was really cool. I thought there was cool attentions to detail there, and I dug it. So, as I said, this is a really, really solid one. For this subgenre, so check it out if you get the time. It's on Netflix. Let me know. Adios.